טוב, הנשיא טראמפ ואני מכירים אחד את השני הרבה שנים. הוא נשיא ארצות הברית, אני ראש ממשלת ישראל. אנחנו הרבה פעמים רואים עין בעין, ויש גם מקרים שאנחנו רואים פחות עין בעין. אני אחראי לאינטרסים הביטחוניים של ישראל.
Iranian journalist Mohammad Reza Mousavi joins me. Nice to see you, sir. And since it's a memorandum of understanding, the three key points that we don't know about, which matters, no nuclear weapon, no ballistic missile program, and also that Iran will stop funding proxy groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. We don't know any of that, but President Trump is calling it a peace deal, or everyone else, memorandum of understanding. So tell me, you know people in Iran, how's it being replayed in Iran?
Well, there is skepticism by hardliner core of the Islamic Republic. Many people have been, there are hundreds of people in each city that have been taken to the streets within the past 3-4 months of the war. And there are super hardline people among them. Some of them have called for the execution of Prime Minister Arakchi or Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf because they agreed to a deal. So still, nobody knows the details of this agreement. But as far as the assurances on not to build a nuclear weapon, it seems possible on the Iranian side. Because already Iran has about 400 kilograms of stockpile, and there is no enrichment running at this point in time. So, in fact, de facto, the enrichment program has halted, and if they can find a kind of solution to do something with that 400 kilograms, that is, according to IAEA Director General, enough for several nuclear bombs, then there will be this concern of the United States will be lifted. But whether Iran is willing to, submit its military program, its missile program, that's a little something to discuss because that's basically what Iran sees as a deterrence factor in response to especially strong Israeli Air Force and also the Air forces of the region. So I'm not sure whether they're willing and ready to do anything about their ballistic missiles. But one thing that we should consider is that if Iran does this, does the last one, the third one, that is arming Hezbollah and the armed groups in the region, then the nature of the Islamic Republic will be different. It will be only the Islamic Republic by the name. So we don't know. I think we should have to wait for a couple of days to see what is announced as the details of the agreement.
Well, even if they agreed to no nuclear enrichment, they lied to the IAEA. They've tricked them before, and they built it way deep down in the mountains. So verification has to be an important element of any deal.
Well, absolutely. What we know as Iran's dishonesty vis-a-vis the IAEA belonged to probably about 20-some years ago when there was some unannounced nuclear activities. But when the nuclear deal was signed back in 2015, the IAEA had access even to that nuclear site that was very deep under the mountains. So it is not impossible for the IAEA to regain its role as as a surveillance body to monitor Iran's nuclear materials. That is one way, but we should also see whether we're talking about Iran not having a nuclear bomb or not being able to produce one, or we're talking about Iran not having a nuclear fuel, producing cycle, or not a nuclear enrichment at all. Because what we have heard recently is that President Trump, along with other officials, have been saying that they don't want Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon. How Iran sees that is that, all right, we can give you guarantees that we're not going to produce a nuclear weapon. We're not going to be able to do that, but we want to keep our nuclear enrichment cycle. Or even in some cases, there was this resolution of doing a zero-sum enrichment. That is, there would be one cycle of doing enrichment and then diluting the resulted enrichment just to keep the centrifuges working. Because many of these centrifuges will be out of cycle. if they're still working.
If you'd asked everybody on February 28th in this country, how long Iran was going to be able to stand up to the United States, we all would have said, well, we'll give it 8 hours.
Yeah,
it has now
absolutely.
been several months. Iran has shown itself to be really tough and resilient, to the regime I'm talking about. And so I think that was a surprise. I don't know if it was a surprise to our War Department and to President Trump, but at least I think a lot of people are surprised how tough, even though they've lost the different layers of their leadership, they're tough.
Yeah, well, Iran was, still is, but was even more ruled by a gerontocracy. Many of the older, the elder generation of the Iranian officials have died, have been killed. And because Iran has a very centralized government, that is, one person takes the main decisions, many people thought that as soon as the supreme leader was killed, there would be a serious change, in the not just in the ranks, but also in the policies of the government. But it didn't happen because we should remember that the Islamic Republic actually has its roots in the country. They have worked on generations of military officials, and they have come up the steps. They have taken the steps to become generals and army men, and they have, to some extent, their own independence from the rest of the world.
Well, at some point, maybe in the future, when we get a better idea, I'd like to talk about all the people that came out who protested in January, which was sort of what provoked a lot of this. And but I don't know what they're saying now because they all went into hiding. But Mohammad Reza Mousavi, thank you very much. People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.